Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. We've seen a handful of shifts in the rifle meta here in Warzone over the course of the past little bit here. And so today, for the first time in a while, I wanted to go through and break down the new top 5 best assault rifle meta loadouts that you want to be using. And you already know, first up, we got to start here on True Game Data and break down some stats. So unfortunately, we can't have every single rifle added to the list here, but I've got the main standouts, the main competitive ones. We've got to knock this down though from 9 to 5, which is not a super easy thing to do here because this category is so competitive. But we've got the ABR, the VAL, the AMAX, the Cypher, the FFAR, the GPR, the Kilo, the XM4, and the AIMS. I had the Kilo on there double for some reason, so I put the AIMS in instead. But this is a super competitive category. Dropping this down to 5 is going to be difficult, but we're looking at 300 health combination shot TTK, of course, and you can see there's a ton of parity here. There is one outright that I think stands out a little bit in a negative way, and that is going to be the ABR. This thing is still super easy to use, and it's decently effective over long range. Like, it's in the mix with the TTKs here at like 55 meters, but that first damage range is just too far behind everything else, especially with the burst fire rate. It's just not it right now. It's a great rifle. It's just not top 5 worthy, at least in my own opinion here. I think there are a couple of obvious mainstays though. The AMAX here, while it's right there, technically is the slowest in that first damage range. That's not a bad stat by any means. A lot of these are just super fast, and over range it just hits like an absolute truck. You get into 40, 50, 60 meters with this thing and it's an absolute beast. So to me, that's got to be a mainstay. The VAL is a little bit iffy here because while it does have a great TTK in the first few damage ranges, its recoil is still a little bit weird, its mobility is still a little bit weird, and its overall damage per mag over range is still not super consistent compared to some of these other rifles. The overall just behavior of it, I guess you could say, isn't as smooth as some of these other choices. So again, really good option, one that I use a lot. I just don't think it's necessarily in that top 5 as of right now. We did, of course, add in that AIMS last minute. It's a good weapon, super low recoil. A lot of players do like it because it is straightforward. If we're going off of pure competition though, it does fall behind a little bit over range here. It's just not going to be the most standout option here. And in terms of low recoil beams, there's a few other options that are objectively better than it. So now we're down to 6. Like I said, I think the AMAX is a mainstay. The XM4, great through that first and second damage range here, drops off pretty harshly beyond 60 meters, but the bulk of the fights you want to be taking are closer than that anyway, so I think that fits. The Kilo being a laser, I think absolutely stays. So it's really down to, in the FFAR, its TTK is insane too. So it's really down to the GPR or the Cypher, our white versus our green line, and we could even just one-to-one compare these really quick. It's super close. A lot of this will come down to preference and feel. I lean the GPR a little bit more though, a little bit faster in that first damage range and a little bit faster over the longer range as well. So that leaves us with the XM4, the Kilo, the GPR, the AMAX, and then also the FFAR. So that is a strong top 5. Now let's jump in game, break down the order of them, number 5 to 1, and give you guys the best setups for each of them as well. As we do so, if you enjoy the video, you find the info helpful, a like rating is always seriously appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, you want to make sure you're always up to date with everything going on in COD, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. So first up at number 5, I've got the GPR, obviously, since it was our last little decision there. I still think, like I said, the Cypher is so close to being on this list here as well, but the GPR, low recoil, you could use it up close, mid-range, long range, doesn't really matter. This thing's very versatile, very straightforward, just a really reliable choice at the end of the day. For the optic, really a matter of preference. Willis 3 times, a 2 times, an Otero, a Volsky, whatever your preference is here. If there's a scope you really like, go ahead and rock that. For me, it's the Willis 3 times. Monolithic suppressor keeps us off the radar. We'll see this on pretty much every single weapon here today. Better range, better velocity, never a bad thing to have on there, which is why I double up on it with reinforced barrel. We end up with a 1209 velocity and a 50 meter effective damage range here as well. So that's fantastic for all the fights you want to be taking with this thing. Vertical foregrip makes this pattern that's already very easy even easier by eliminating that horizontal bounce for the most part. So it's going to be very straightforward there. And then extended to 60 rounder, that's going to work fine for all squad sizes. If you wanted to upgrade to gunfighter here, you could throw on a quick draw, rear grip, and infiltrator stock, then either recoil springs are over pressured, and then you have a solid 8 attachment set up too. This thing works 5 or 8. It's just that dependable, that easy. Then at number 4, I've got the XM4 fitting for sure. If this thing just had a slightly better last damage range, although you're not going to take a lot of your fights beyond 60-ish meters, it'd just be even more effective, but you do have that much more harsh damage drop off at that range, so like it'll be more noticeable on Verdansk obviously compared to Rebirth. But Otherwise, throughout, this thing is so competitive. It's right there in the mix with all these other rifles, which is really cool to see since the XM4 has kind of been out of the meta for some time now. So again, here, just a matter of preference with your optic. I go for the Jason Armory 2x in this case. Monolithic suppressor for that better range and velocity. Reinforced barrel as well. 1224 velocity, nearly a 60-meter effective damage range on here too. Vertical foregrip, max horizontal controller, making this thing more predictable. Extended 2 here is a 60. It's far more worth it with the pros and cons than extended 3 is for 70. I'm just not a fan of the extra slowdowns for 10 whole bullets there, so not really worth running that in my opinion. 60 is totally sufficient. Quick draw rear grip for a better ADS, just keeps it a little bit more aggressive. We don't oftentimes get to use the buffer weight stock, but we can here, and this helps out a ton with control, makes this thing a true laser beam. And then why not stack even more recoil on here if you want recoil springs. You could also opt for overpressured and get a 1468 velocity, which is pretty crazy. Just depends on how comfortable you are with the gun if you're running a gunfighter build. If not, it'd probably drop off recoil springs, drop quick draw grip, and probably the vertical foregrip in favor of buffer weight stock, since that's doing a little bit more there. But yeah, this thing is an absolute beast. And number 3, we've got the Kilo, maybe the single easiest gun to use in the game right now. It's so straightforward, super low recoil. Really, anyone can pick this thing up and just fry with it. It's not going to take much to actually get comfortable and familiar with this thing whatsoever, and it's got a super competitive TTK throughout, which is a nice added benefit as well. Usually the easiest guns aren't going to kill super quick. This is one of those cases where it's easy to use and it kills fast, so you'll love to see it. Here I am going for the Otoro Red Dot, one of my favorites as well. As mentioned though, change things up as you want. Monolithic suppressor, range and velocity, more of that with the reinforced. And on here we got a 1357 velocity. That hit scan range is phenomenal, and nearly a 62-meter effective damage range as well. Because I do find this thing largely easy to use, I actually skip out on an underbarrel and just use recoil springs for some horizontal and some vertical control, and then the extended mag 2 on here as well. Same deal as the XM4, just not worth it for the 10 extra bullets for all the slowdown that extended 3 is going to give you there. So 60 will be totally sufficient with this rate of fire. Again, if you wanted to upgrade to gunfighter here, throw on vertical, throw on quick draw, throw on infiltrator, you'll be set there as well. It's kind of a copy and paste in that scenario, but this thing is so easy to use. You can get by with 5 attachments and just use overkill completely fine. Now at number 2, we've got the FFAR, maybe the most versatile gun in the entire game, just because it excels pretty much everywhere. It is a little bit more difficult to use once you get out to, you know, 40, 50, 60 meters, the long range, just because of its rate of fire and some of its recoil, although the setup does attack that a lot, so it's a lot easier at that point than it would be without this setup. But mid-range, close range, it fries there. One of the fastest TTKs in the game. Like, this thing is just so efficient, kills so quick at every single range basically, that it is absolutely one of the top rifles, one of the top weapons in the game. So first up here, I go for the Volsky reflex. In this case, I actually do really like this sight on this gun in particular, just because of how aggressive I play with it personally. I do opt for the compensator here as opposed to monolithic, just to ensure I'm getting that max control. I want to be as accurate as I possibly can be with this thing, and that's going to help out a ton there with that vertical control. Reinforced barrel still gives us over 1,000 velocity and nearly a 55-meter effective damage range, so you're sitting pretty there. Vertical foregrip again for the max horizontal control, making the pattern a lot more predictable. Extended 2 in this case, another 60 rounders, so that works fine. And then once more, that copy and paste for aggressiveness here. Quick draw rear grip for a better ADS, infiltrator stock or pad for the better strafe speed, and then definitely recoil springs on here too for that better control. So across the board, this is the easiest control build for the FFAR, plus with gunfighter you also get efficiency elsewhere with the range, the mobility, and everything too. So this build absolutely melts. And then lastly, at number 1, I've got to go the AMAX. It has a little bit more recoil than the Kilo, than the XM4, than the GPR. It also has a much faster TTK than a lot of those options too. This thing absolutely shreds at all ranges, especially though it thrives in the long range there. So if you can control this thing, the reward is there. It's moderate, I would say, risk with very high reward in this case. Really, just depending on your level of comfortability will determine if you want to use 5 or 8 attachments here. Go for whatever optic you want. I'm using Otoro Red Dot. I do use a compensator regardless of gunfighter or overkill in this case, just for that max control to make things easy. Plus with reinforced barrel, even without 8 attachments, you still have 1100 velocity and a 63.5 meter effective damage range, which is sufficient for all maps that we've got right now. Vertical foregrip, max horizontal control, definitely needed there. And then extended 2 here, another 60 rounder. Once more, if you wanted gunfighter, quick draw rear grip, infiltrator stock, I'd probably recommend recoil springs first. But if you wanted to go crazy and you're comfortable with the gun, overpressured for a 1320 velocity is never a bad option either. So you can sort of pick and choose depending on how good you feel this gun's behaving and performing for you. But this rifle meta is competitive. There's truly an argument, I would say, for a lot of these guns to be in that 1, 2, or 3 spot. There's even a larger argument for weapons that are not on this list to be on this list, which is a good thing. I wish it was more MW2 and MW3 guns in the conversation, but that's not really the direction they seem to be taking things this year. Nonetheless, solid rifle meta right now. That is going to wrap things up for this video, though. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to drop a like, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.